Well, a month into the Israel-Hamas war and the Israeli ground offensive has only intensified. Its forces say Gaza has been split into two parts as the IDF moves forward. 10,000 people are now dead in the Gaza Strip and there is no end to the hostage crisis either. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up his second tour of the Middle East with a final stop in Turkey, as United States bolstered its presence by sending the CIA director to Israel as well and a second aircraft carrier and strike group to the eastern Mediterranean. The Israeli military has now claimed that it has encircled Gaza City, backed by airstrikes and some gunfire from warships offshore. The troops have divided the besieged coastal strip into two, cutting the region into South and North Gaza.
כוחות צה"ל, בהובלת סיירת גולני, כיתרו את העיר עזה. הם הגיעו עד לחוף הים, בחלק הדרומי של העיר עזה, והם כיתרו את העיר עזה, ובעצם היום יש עזה צפון ועזה דרום.
Gaza was also struck by fresh explosions on Sunday. Explosions lit up the night sky over the Israel-Gaza border. As Israel rejected growing calls for a ceasefire, with the military specialists saying that forces are set to intensify their operations against Palestinian Islamist group Hamas with no time frame set for their activities. Shortly before the strikes, the internet and telephone lines were cut off as the strikes continued over the night. Hamas-run health ministry says that the intense strikes killed more than 200 people overnight in Gaza. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has said that Israeli fighter jets struck 450 Hamas targets in Gaza and troops seized a militant compound in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen has told EU diplomats in Brussels that the European Union is increasing its humanitarian aid for Gaza by $27 million. She said by doing so, the European Union will spend a total of 100 million euros in humanitarian aid for the civilians in Gaza. Amid the ongoing conflict in Gaza, American Central Intelligence Agency Director Bill Burns arrived in Israel as well to hold discussions on Gaza, the hostage negotiations, and America's commitment to deter state and non-state actors from widening the conflict between Israel and Hamas further. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held talks with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan before leaving Ankara. He said that the U.S. is committed to securing the release of hostages and is working to get in more aid into Gaza.
Discussed our work to strengthen our counterterrorism partnership, doing it well and growing our economic relationship, trade and investment, and of course we discussed the crisis in Gaza, including the efforts to significantly expand humanitarian assistance to people in need, efforts to prevent the conflict from spreading to other parts.
Meanwhile, America's second aircraft carrier and strike group arrived in the eastern Mediterranean and Israel-Hamas war. Amid the Israel-Hamas war, and according to the U.S. Central Command, the Dwight Eisenhower carrier strike group sailed into the Mediterranean to stop Iran and its proxy militant groups from trying to widen the Israel-Hamas war into a regional conflict. And well, our correspondent Jody Cohen has filed this report from Israel on the presence of the CIA Director William Burns in Israel amid the ongoing conflict in Gaza.
CIA Director Bill Burns is in West Asia for meetings with intelligence counterparts and political leaders. He'll be discussing the situation in Gaza, US support for negotiations on the release of the 240 hostages held in Gaza, and on deterring others from widening the conflict. The meetings follow an announcement by US Central Command that it has moved a nuclear submarine to the region, which is being seen as a warning to Iran and Hezbollah not to get involved in the Hamas-Israel war. The US has reportedly sent a message to Iran and Hezbollah that it would be prepared to intervene militarily if they launch attacks against Israel. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has rejected calls for a ceasefire, saying it would leave Hamas able to commit further 7th of October-style massacres against Israelis, which the group has said it plans to do. President Biden has indicated that progress has been made on the idea of a humanitarian pause, and Israel has suggested that could happen if some of the hostages are released in tandem. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.